Welcome to WxTV, your online source for weatherization training. Today's episode is in response to some viewer suggestions, and one that has come up several times is offering a technique for accessing stucco walls in order to blow in insulation. And once again, those crews in North Dakota stepped up to the plate to show us how they do it.
Hi, I'm Ken Berg from Jamestown Weatherization, Jamestown, North Dakota. And today we're going to demonstrate how to insulate stucco home. The method that we use is we cut blocks into the stucco. And to get behind the stucco, we have a 1/2-inch hole hog drill bit that we drill into the wood. And then we fill tube the wall, dense packet. Here's different material that we use, the different tools. We use a 4x8-inch piece of wood, and all we do, we find our stud and we set our blocks on. We snap a chalk line and we try and center our stud so we get both cavities at one time. Sometimes if it's a tight space, we use a grinder to get in. We grind our blocks out. We could use that. Most of the time we use a circular saw, and we use a Fastenal or a DeWalt blade, diamond blade. Make sure you get a heavy duty blade, because if you go buy a cheap blade, what's going to happen, they're going to get hot, they're going to get warm, and they're going to wobble, and they're not going to last maybe a job. But these here will last probably 3-4 jobs easily. So what we could do right now is then we'll demonstrate, snap our line, use our block to mark our walls out, and then then we'll proceed to cut the blocks out. Make sure you overlap your cuts, cut it through real good, and make sure you're deep enough. Set your saw, and this should snap right out of there. And then just set your block down, get behind, make sure the paper's out of here. So you want a nice clean cut. And then what you want to do is stagger right in the middle of your 2x4 so you can get both cavities at one time. So now we'll drill this out and see where we come out. Okay, here's what we're using today is 1.25-inch fill tube. We go from a 3-inch down to a 2-inch to 1.25 inch, and just make sure that the fill tube is higher, or at least as high as your ceiling, 8-foot, 9-foot, 10-foot ceiling, whatever you have, to access that cavity. On these here, we normally use a 2 9/16 hole. That gives me plenty of room to get the fill tube in and have a little bit of air escape, so there's not so much pressure on the walls. Now normally underneath the windows, you'll still drill the same hole and use the same fill tube. And then above your windows, if you have enough area up there, then we normally will just use a 1-inch or 1.25 inch nozzle to fill that cavity on top of your windows or your top of your doors. Okay, now when you're fill tubing these walls, make sure that your gate is set okay, and then your air, because you don't want to blow out the inside walls. Cold air returns, watch that. Watch all your wiring outlets. And then make sure you're dense packing to the capacity of 3.5 cubic feet. You don't want to underpack it. Make sure you get to the end, that that everything is packed good enough so when you get to the bottom, it's not loose. So that's a real plus there. Make sure you're packed in all the way, from top all the way to the bottom. Here's what we have here is our cold air return. There's drilled our hole on the outside. Now what you got to be careful of is you don't fill this cavity up. Now what I'm going to try and do is put some fiberglass shoved down below the wall cavity so it doesn't fill that up. And what we're going to try and do is when we fill tube it is go up this cavity to the bottom of the window sill here, and then try and fill this up like right in here. Now what we normally do is plug our holes with the 2 9/16 plug. Then make sure everything's cleaned out real nice. And we like to glue just for precaution so it doesn't crack or anything. We like to glue it before we put the patch back on. And then set the patch in. And then also we put screws in to hold the patch until everything sets up. And the screws will be all covered with Insulcrete. Okay, it looks good. And then next step would be put Insulcrete in, just in the cracks. And then once it sets up, then we prime it, and of course it depends on the homeowner if he wants us to paint it. Otherwise they'll be in charge of painting, or if not, we'll try and match the paint that's on here. But for now we'll put the patch on and put the Insulcrete in. Okay, what I'm going to do now is just, we're at that point where we've got the Insulcrete on, Quikrete, and now I'm going to clean it up, clean up all the excess on it, brush it off. It should dry fairly quickly, and show you how we do it here. Just get yourself a good brush, clean the excess, all the dust off. And once it dries, you'll should be ready to paint, prime it. Something like this, you just keep going back on it. This will take away the chalk line and most of the marks on it. I'd have to go over it a couple times, and I'll let it dry, and then we'll see how it paints up. Okay, this is another method that you can use. Instead of the Quikrete mix on here, you can use latex caulking, what I have here, and just put the caulking in nice and thick. Make sure you get the overlap on it, and try and get it right down inside, and make sure you put plenty on there. You want a latex caulking because you want to have it paintable when you get done with it. And get it on there nice and thick. What you want to do is just get a dampen a rag, get it moistened, and then just pat it down. Try and get a little texture to it. Now you can use a white, you can use a clear caulking just so it's a latex paintable. And if it doesn't cover, then what you can do is just run another little bead down around it a little bit where the bad spots, and then go back. Pat it down nice, kind of feather it down a little bit. And then once it dries, you can go ahead and prime it, and then go back and use your paint to match it up. And don't have to worry about being too fussy with it. Get it in there real good. Get a little texture to it. And there you go. So that method will work too. Sometimes it depends what you want to use. This method or the cement method. So either one works well.
Well, that's it for another episode of WxTV. That was a clean technique for accessing those stucco sidewalls to blow in insulation. Thanks again to Ken Berg, Bruce Hagen, Cal Steiner, and those hard-working crews in North Dakota for taking the time to share their know-how. Keep those viewer suggestions coming, and hey, thanks for watching. WxTV, your online source for weatherization information, techniques, and expert advice.